Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. It's so nice to have you back. I am Richelle, the real life carnivore. I have a really cool guest today. Her name is Sarah Franklin. She is an NTP, and she's just a really cool lady. She's been carnivore for quite some time now, and I'm going to invite her on to share her story, to talk about what an NTP is, to talk about the benefits she's experienced with carnivore, and how she can best serve you. So please join me in welcoming Sarah. Hello, good morning.
Hi,
How are
good
you?
morning. Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It looks like it's beautiful weather where you are. Where are you at?
It is. It is. You cut out a little bit, but I am in Costa Rica, so it is sunny, warm, humid. It might rain. It might be the sun. So it changes minute to minute, but it's always beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so grateful that you wanted to hop on and do this live with me. So can you tell us a little bit about who is Sarah Franklin? What is an NTP? And why did you go carnivore?
Yeah. So, well, thanks for having me. And, I became carnivore. It was a journey, right? It didn't start one day. I just cut every single thing out. So, I actually worked in pharmaceutical sales and had a lot of training, traditional medicine and healthcare and all things health. And I thought I knew what I was doing. And then when my own health started taking a turn and I was having high blood pressure, I wasn't losing weight, I was working out, I was eating clean, I was eating what I thought I needed to eat, and I was not feeling well. So my hair was falling out. I was having a lot of issues. My cycle was not regulated and I didn't understand. So I thought it was eat less, move more, and just, eat lean and clean and lots of veggies. And it just wasn't working. And even in the industry I was in, people were sick despite all of these advances in medicine and medication and therapies, and everybody's still sick and it's not curing anything. So I decided there had to be a better way. And I started doing my own research because I had known how to read clinical trials and understand. And I started researching myself and trying to understand what was missing. And there's a lot missing. It's not just about calories. There's so much more involved. And when I kind of went that way and understanding a little bit more about the hormones and how they play a role in health as well as in many other things, I decided I kind of started going keto and saw some success and felt better. And then understanding like, okay, I saw a little bit of this carnivore, probably Dr. Sean Baker and some things, and still thinking that sounds kind of crazy. You need avocados and you need vegetables. But then the one January, I decided I'm going to try this out, and so much got better. And I felt even better and better. And that's when I decided, like, okay, I need to know more. I need to understand why too. I can't just say, yeah, this is what, it works. So, but why does this work? And I went back to school to the Nutritional Therapy Association and became a nutritional therapy practitioner. So NTP. And that is what you focus on, not just food, but it's a holistic approach. So the whole body, how it works together. And you can't have a problem in one area and expect it to be, not bleeding into another. So it reviews, yes, a nutrient dense diet. And it is based on the works of Weston A. Price, who was a dentist traveling throughout the world and noticing people that were healthy versus people that were not and what they ate and looking at their teeth. And the natives that ate an ancestrally appropriate diet, including what was local, in season, and heavily animal based, they had the best teeth and they had the least sickness. So this was based on that. And it was focusing on the nutrient dense foods, but so much more. It's sleep, it's stress, it's hydration, it's mineral balance, it's your digestion, your blood sugar. So all of these things we address and look at the whole picture, because if you are having problems in one area, then the other is going to be a problem. And once I was trained on that. I decided, after a little while, I had started my practice once I finished school, and now I quit my full-time job, and I am full-time practitioner working with clients one-to-one as well as some groups. And we focus on mostly carnivore, keto-ish, but I talk about my approach, which I call carnivore with a K, and we strategically use ketosis for those that are not getting the benefits that they were hoping to get even with a carnivore diet. So that was a long-winded answer.
No, it was a perfect answer, and it just drummed up so many questions for me. So you touched on a few things: eating less, moving more, the importance of hormones, how everything works symbiotically. So I want to start by asking, what were some of the initial benefits that you saw when you went carnivore? What are some of the things that just immediately noted improved?
Yeah. So immediately I did lose body fat, where I thought I was already eating, plenty of protein, what I thought, but I was eating like fat, which I don't think I ever really ate on purpose, like other than maybe drizzle some olive oil on a salad once in a while. And I just felt so much calmer, if that makes sense. Like not that I was ever an anxious person, but, it's a little bit more stress, like, oh, gotta get here. And it's just an easier, thinking clearer. I did my blood pressure normalized when I had high blood pressure before. So that improved. IBS symptoms that I had and bloating, that went away. I don't have gas or anything like that anymore, which people are always blown away by when you remove fiber because they're told fiber's good. But it's like adding traffic to a traffic jam, actually. And yeah, so those were probably the immediate benefits. Later, my skin, which I had cystic acne in the past, had gotten better and clearer, where I don't even wear makeup anymore, which if you would ask me 10 years ago if I would ever do that, I would say no. So it was a lot of improvements, some early on and some, just more and more, come the longer I was carnivore. What about you?
That's amazing. Oh man. I had a lot of surprises with carnivore. One of the biggest reasons why I went carnivore, as you know, is because I was diagnosed completely infertile. My husband was too. And I was like, I will do whatever I need to do to get pregnant. And I didn't have for in vitro. So this was my option. And my husband and I knew we had missed something. Both of us are former bodybuilders. So we just, hello, little hand. So we just know that, there are so many components that go into it. Like there are so many components that go into preparing your body for show day. And it's making sure your digestive health is on point. It's making sure your nutrition is on point, your hydration, your mental health. Like it's an all-encompassing process. And carnivore is the same. Yeah. It still applies with carnivore.
Yeah. And, so many people that look healthy and are in shape, they can be completely infertile, and they, or other people that are over, like PCOS is another huge reason that women, it's type 3 diabetes or like diabetes of the ovaries, essentially. And nobody talks about that being a metabolic disease. So there are a lot of reasons that, even if you think, oh, I look healthy, why needing in vitro, like, so many people are going that route. So that's amazing that I know you found the right way, a natural way to get everything working in order again and have your little guy.
I know. And it's the best. It's the best. And I, like 10 out of 10, I would recommend this way of eating, for anything that people are going through. I saw a reduction in my chronic osteoarthritic pain that I literally thought I was going to be wheelchair bound by the time I was 50, because I wasn't going to stop training. I wasn't going to stop being athletic. I wasn't going to stop living my life just because I had chronic debilitating pain. My disordered way of eating resolved. I never thought I would see, a resolution to being a sugar and a carb addict and a volume eater and a restrictive binge eater. I never thought I would see anything change in there. And like all of these things started to change. And like you were just sharing, bloating, gas. Why is that normal? Why is it normal for it to sound like there's a school of orcas in my belly after I eat a meal? Well, that doesn't happen on carnivore anymore. I don't need to walk in crop dust to work it out.
Right. Oh my
Like,
God. Yeah.
right. Like
Yes.
now I can just
Or
go for the
just
walk and
feeling
just
like,
enjoy the walk.
yeah, I don't want to go somewhere. I can't wear those pants to that because I'm going to eat something or whatnot. You just feel like a different person at
Yes.
the end of the night versus in the morning. Like, oh, look at how flat my belly is in the morning.
Mm-hmm. It's so nice, but I think there's just too many ailments have been normalized. Like it's normal to have PCOS. It's normal to have cystic acne. It's normal to have mood disorders, eating disorders. It's normal to have gas and bloat and indigestion. I'm like, I don't agree with that. Can you talk a little bit about how hormones and your gut microbiome play into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, these hormones, there's so many hormones involved, and hopefully you can hear me because they just started doing something next door. So there's the gut microbiome is more than just what you eat, and it's your exposure to sunlight and nature and the circadian rhythm. It's, even yes, what you eat, but when your body is in a hyper reactive state because of all the other stresses, then you're going to show up with digestive issues. So it may not be from food. It could be you did way too much in every other aspect. Maybe you're under eating, you have really high cortisol, you're working out like crazy, that you're just doing so many other things that digestion is not a priority for your body. Your body is going to prioritize survival, and cortisol is a stealer of hormones. So when things go wrong, especially with women, what they usually find is that cortisol is a cholesterol steroid hormone, and you need cholesterol to make vitamin D, your estrogen, your progesterone, and all of these things. And when you do not get enough, first of all, that's one problem. The other is cortisol is above that in the chain, that it will steal the nutrients to build your other sex hormones. So chronically high cortisol can mess up all of that.
I've learned, and you can tell me what your thoughts are on this, but I learned a long time ago, you know how they talk about like the thyroid type versus the adrenal type. So I find this to be very, very true. People with higher cortisol or elevated cortisol seem to have sort of that like apple shape. So like they carry the majority of their weight in their midsection. It's like mostly that visceral fat. They have thin legs, thin arms, a very inflamed face. And then the thyroid type is more like hourglass shape. So their fat kind of collects on their extremities. I would be one of those people where it like collects on my arms and my legs and my butt before it ever goes to my stomach and my abdomen. Do you have any thoughts about that? Is that relevant? How does that apply to people?
So there are differences. Oh, am I back?
Sorry.
Did I pop off for a second?
Sorry about that.
Okay, that's all right. So there are a few differences. Storing fat, especially for women, in our hips and in our arms, and dispersing it is actually a little bit better for your body because of that type of fat. When it is more abdomen and that visceral fat, it is more dangerous and more inflammatory. There's usually an estrogen component to that. So too much estrogen can be an issue. So a lot of men, if you think of a beer belly, like that's actually, you could call it an estrogen belly because it is that driving force and it's putting that fat there. So the hormones can play a role into, where your fat is stored. So healthy fat storage, if you will, is, like hips and thighs and arms. And that's usually how women most often store that. But I find it's more of the hormonal component, maybe not as much the thyroid.
This is so interesting to me. You mentioned cortisol is a stealer of hormones. What does that mean?
Yeah. So the priority of your body is to survive, right? If something's chasing you, like this is in nature, like if you were out and you were hunting and you're looking for food, you're going to be heightened, you're going to be ready. And if something starts to chase you, you need that immediate blood sugar and then that cortisol, adrenaline, and give you that burst of energy to run and then, okay, problem's over, it's gone, or you escaped, and it comes back down. And that's to survive. The problem is with our chronically elevated cortisol for people that, oh, I got an email and then that it's spiking and oh, there's traffic and oh my God, and over and over and over. And it's going to be the priority to survive. And a big thing that is a driver of high cortisol is blood sugar, and tapping into, eating constantly throughout the day, having these blood sugar spikes, it does increase cortisol and that adrenaline response from the adrenals to give you this anxiety feeling. And we don't want that over and over. So that is above the chain to make it's pregnenolone. And if it's cortisol and aldosterone are above that, so if you are just making that, there may not be anything left to make that. And if your body's under too much stress, there's no proper environment to make a baby or to have a cycle, because that's down the chain. Same thing like having a cycle or proper thyroid. Like if the survival is the one thing and whether you're just overdoing it or undernourishing or not getting the nutrients you need, now you're down regulating other body processes on purpose. Your body says, we are going into low battery mode, right? Like your cell phone has the energy save mode. And that is what the body will do if it thinks that there's a threat and that there's just other more important things going on or needing to be addressed.
This makes a lot of sense to me, especially like when I used to compete, the first thing that would shut down was my endocrine system because my body was prioritizing certain things. I mean, when you're exercising the way I had to and lifting the way I had to and trying to optimize sleep and trying to optimize your gut and trying to maintain a cycle at the same time, like there were a lot of moving parts and there were a lot of things that could have gone far worse. But it's just so interesting to me to see how these things have changed. And I'm so grateful that my body has recovered from those things. I want to ask you, how important is exercise with carnivore? Is it necessary to exercise? Do people need to prioritize weight training? Do they need to be doing hours of cardio? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So, sharing your story, it's so common because people think you have to do more, right? Like, I better exercise. I better do this every single day and go hard and do more and do more. And that, if you are doing workouts that your body can't recover from, you are not allowing metabolic healing. So it depends on the person. Yes, exercise is good, but too much is bad. And I always talk about hormesis, and it's this curve. So it's like a bell-shaped curve that a little stress, right? So a little bit of exercise is good. Too much is going to have negative returns. And we want to find the most efficient way to do that. So depending on the person, where they're coming from, I always say it's different, movement versus exercise. So on carnivore or any way of eating, walking, moving daily is important. We never meant to sit for 24 hours a day. Even if you exercise for an hour and then you didn't move at all for the rest of the day, that's not ideal. So movement, whether you're cleaning your house, walking your dog, doing a walk, that is really all that's necessary, because diet is the majority of what your body looks like, and getting the hormones and other pieces first. That being said, strength training is very good for longevity, for brain health, for muscle health. And I do recommend clients do strength train, but at proper doses, because it's the dose. And the number one thing that clients hate when I tell them is you need to do less. You don't need a 5 a.m. fasted workout every day doing a spin class on your Peloton or a HIIT class or CrossFit. And they hate it because they are addicted and they love more and more and more. But they're usually never at the body composition they want. They're inflamed, they're puffy, they're not sleeping, they're sore all the time. They have no energy, and they wonder why they're having all these other chronic problems. So many people need to do less. And I always talk about the balance, right? Like just walk. If you need to take a break, like walk or gentle bike ride, 30 minutes, that's all you need. strength training, I say never more than like 3 times a week. Like I work out twice a week usually. But I do a
Oh,
full
and you're
body.
in great shape. You are
Oh,
in
thank you.
great shape.
I
Like
do.
you look
Oh,
like the epitome of health. So
oh,
you're in
thank you.
amazing shape.
You're sweet. But it isn't, it's, I used to do more. I used to do like the group fitness classes 3, 4 days a week all the time. And I was overweight and it wasn't working because that cortisol we talked about, like cardio, also endurance cardio has the opposite effect because it is telling your body we need to go long distances with a bigger fuel tank, right? We need to be more efficient at it. So what can make us lighter? We can get rid of some muscle, we can get rid of some bones, and we're going to store, we need a bigger fuel tank, which is body fat. And so you're trying to hang on to that, where it is also catabolic. So it's going to break down your body, where then using strength training is anabolic and it's building that muscle. It uses the fat for fuel and it's so much better, but still not overdoing it every single day. And like the weight training difference of some of these group fitness classes, like their weight training is just cardio with some little weights thrown around, right? Like that's not weight training. It's heavy, it's a lift, it's a intense, and then it's a rest. And that's what actual strength training is. So I know you do a lot of training as well. What are your thoughts about that too?
Oh man. Well, I mean, like I said, coming from a former bodybuilding background, and I will put the caveat in there, like I did not use exogenous hormones when I was doing this. Like I have a very natural proclivity to building muscle. It is very easy for me to build muscle. So now that I've optimized my diet, it's even more efficient at building muscle. So my
Nice.
issue is putting on too much muscle too quickly. Like, I mean, I get jacked, eating a couple of steaks and lifting some weights a couple of times a week. I feel like I'm jacked all the time, which is not a
Yeah,
bad thing. It's maybe not
it's
the look
efficient.
that I'm going for. It's
Yeah.
like my body is able to do that and it's able to utilize the fuel that is coming in. And
Yes.
I am one of the people that had to slow down when I came to carnivore. I used to train 7 days a week. And when I came to carnivore, it was the first time where I actually fatigued when I was going through the transition of being a sugar burner to becoming a fat burner. And I would love for you to touch on that because I think that has a lot to do with, you mentioned about ketones.
Yeah.
So in that conversion process, like I didn't realize how tired I was. I mean, yeah, I was in great shape, but I did not realize how exhausted I was. And I was addicted to the cortisol boost that I would get from the stress of working out. Like I mean,
Yes.
I would do 20 minutes of HIIT plus, 40 to 60 minutes of weights. And then I would finish with another 10 minutes of HIIT. Like nobody needs to be working out in excess like that. It's not like I'm competing for bodybuilding anymore. That's probably part of the reason why I couldn't get pregnant because I was stressing my body out so much. But can you
Yeah.
touch a little bit? Can you touch a little bit on that as well?
Yeah. So you're 100% right, though. That's exactly it because people love that high of running off stress hormones and adrenaline. Um, if you get this high and it is a dopamine hit, like, so a lot of people are addicted to that and you feel good, you get endorphins after. So that I understand. It's just you need to find healthy ways to do it that, like you said, you're exhausted after. Your body can't recover, it's not rebuilding, and you rebuild and repair when you rest. So if your body never rests and there's just too much going on, like if you're just constantly ripping down your house and never putting walls back in, like it's gonna be pretty empty. It's not gonna look very nice, and there's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be pretty unstable. So many of the people that can look a certain way can be overdoing that and have a lot of other problems and not sleeping, and it bleeds into all these other areas. So it's important to have that balance. And like the HIIT classes, like I know, like Dr. Sean O'Mara, like talks about, he works out like 15 minutes for like every 3 days. And like, that's really all. You don't need all of this. We've been trained by an industry trying to sell us stuff that you need to be in this class and in this one and do HIIT. And then you need this, and you need cardio for your heart, and you need this. Well, if you eat a proper diet, you remove, first of all, a ton of that. And then secondly, you can be efficient. Your body's working better that you don't need to go crazy. You could do a sprint and you can work out, less than the active time is, single digit minutes, 2 to 3 minutes if you did it like 10 times. And then you have rest in between. And it's going to give you more muscle growth and be so much more efficient. As well as, like you said, you're able to build muscle easier and get fit because you're eating proper fuel, and then you can repair. So it's all about like the minimum effective dose, and that's more important. And then you have that energy to go through your day and, power your hormones and digest your food. Like those are important.
Yeah. And not hitting that 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, that afternoon wall. That was me.
Right.
I mean, I would work out fasted, and obviously I was overtraining. And then I would get home and my nervous system would be so fired up that I just didn't have an appetite to eat. So then it would be several hours later that I would eat. Then I would finally eat, and then I would volume eat to try and compensate for that because I was starving.
Yeah.
And then I would crash in the afternoon because here I am now eating, 130 grams of protein in a sitting because I'm starving.
Yeah.
It was just a recipe for disaster. But, I knew better, but the behavior was just so ingrained in me. It's like, that I have to do this. I have to do this.
Yes.
I'm one of those people, like when I set my mind to something, it's done. Like
and many carnivores are. Yes, yeah. But so many carnivores are that they're like, and they are motivated, which is good. It's just you need to sometimes reel it back because less is more, and it's not always do more. And like you said, the fasted workouts, right? Like that's the stress hormone. You did that, you fasted. Now it's delaying that hunger and you're not getting those signals. And then when you do eat later in the day, your body's like, oh my God, it's this time of day and we only have this much food so far. We need way more. And then you feel awful. Like opening that eating window earlier is super helpful because most women or anybody who have carnivore start intermittent fasting, and they just think, oh, you better not eat until noon. Don't you dare eat before noon and have 2 meals. They have to be at noon and 6 or whatever it is, and have that short eating window because it's better, which is not the case. Intermittent fasting is good, done appropriately in a way that aligns with your body's circadian rhythm, but forcing that every day, all the time, is just more restriction and stress.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I'm with you. Can you talk about how important it is to optimize your circadian rhythm and what that actually influences in your body? This is a really big one.
Yeah. This one is, I won't say newer. It's probably newer to me because I was the same. I did skip meals, or just eat later. And I thought, yeah, I'm fine. Like I'm not hungry till noon, or, I just do my thing. And I wasn't optimized either. And when I kind of started digging into more research, as well as even with my training, we talked about the circadian rhythm. There is a way that the body works, and what's more convenient for you doesn't matter. So the sun is a clock for your body. Your eyes essentially and your skin take instructions from the sun as to what time it is. So even if you slept in all day and woke up at noon, and the first time you went outside, like it's still noon, even though you just woke up, that is going to run all these processes. So it gives your body instructions and an order to do things. So every morning, I do get up and I watch the sunrise, and it helps set your hormones and give your body the instructions for the day, what time of year it is, how much sun there's going to be, all of these things that align, because what's happening in the summer is so different than what happens in the winter, in terms of, how much sun there is and what people may be able to tolerate more carbohydrates if they are going to have those in the summer when they would be local and in season. So that's why talk a little that it's not everyone needs to be 100% carnivore if they are feeling good, and it is circadian and seasonally appropriate, because there are times where you could do that, but you didn't in the winter have vegetables and fruits that were flown in from some other place. Like you were eating meat and you were getting rid of those oxalates. So people that had a lot of oxalate issues, there was a time of year where every winter you were not having them, and your body was able to
get rid of that. And it was always this balance. So there are seasons, there are the instructions, and it is going to tell your body what to do. Same thing with, that's the sun. And then when the sun goes down, now your body should say, okay, it's getting dark out. We need to start to make melatonin to be able to go to sleep and repair. And eating late at night, your digestion naturally slows down around 7 o'clock. Your insulin should go down so that melatonin can come out so that you can sleep and repair. And those things, if you're not operating, doing them as it should be, you can see issues, and there are signaling that don't happen. So when melatonin is not working properly, that's where a lot of women especially have leptin resistance. They're not getting this communication, that then the signals are off in the brain to how much fat is on your body, and it's your stop eating hormone. So many people are like starving and ravenous, even though they have all of this body fat to lose, and they have no idea that it could be just a hormone miscommunication. And if you let it be dark at night and get light in the day and regulate your body, it can be really simple, and probably eating the same food you're already eating now, just in a different order, or earlier versus later, and little free tips, to align your body with how it works optimally. If you can get it working where you're more insulin sensitive during the day, which meaning you eat that same meal in the morning, you're going to have, it's going to be more efficiently used. You're not going to have you're not going to have as big of a blood sugar spike, therefore insulin spike, which is the fat storing hormone. As if you ate it at night, it's going to be a much bigger spike and more insulin, and actually you're going to save more of that as fat. So even the exact same meal can have different effects on your body when you eat it when you should versus maybe when you shouldn't. So yeah, circadian rhythm is becoming more on the topic lately, which is great. I think people are talking about it, but it is new for a lot of people. They're like, wait, what? Like, I can't do that. Yeah. And it is
that
not
was
always
a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big one I found through Sarah Kleiner. She couldn't get pregnant either, and she's like, nobody ever addressed my leptin, and I was like, leptin? What the hell is leptin?
Right. What is that?
I had to launch into that rabbit hole, and started optimizing my circadian rhythm and started to see an improvement in my sleep. And in the carnivore, that was the first time I actually ever was able to sleep. Like, I would sleep sporadically for 1 to 2 hours a night max. I literally just constantly on. So coming to carnivore and having that first night of restful sleep, like deep sleep, like we went to bed, I think it was like, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock or something. And I didn't move until the next morning. And I woke up to my husband like, are you alive? And I was like,
wow.
What time is it? And he's like, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like, no, it's not. He's like, yeah, like you need to get up. And I was like, really? And he showed me the time. I couldn't believe it. I fell asleep and I did not move. I didn't wake up. I was like, oh my gosh, is this what it feels like to sleep?
Right? I know. It's amazing. Like, I had a client even the other day, it was something so simple as like, hey, don't drink all your water at nighttime. Like, because she was waking up to go pee like 2 to 3 times a night. I'm like, well, okay, let's talk about this a little bit more. Let's talk about electrolytes. Like, don't have this massive electrolyte dump, like close to bed. Your body's gonna have to do something with that. And she's like, I have not slept in years. Like, this is, it's crazy. Like, little things can be a huge deal, and sleep is huge. And the people that are waking up, hot and whatever that in the middle of the night is a lot of times that blood sugar, and opposite circadian rhythm, because you're in this environment where you're inside and it's just like telling your body it's noon, so why should I make melatonin and go to sleep, and you don't get that quality rest. Yeah, and not getting that quality rest overnight. Now you start your day like on 75% or whatever it is, and you're trying to continue that every day is just going to be less and less.
Yeah, it's like starting a road trip. I use this analogy all the time. It's like starting a road trip with only half a tank of fuel. It's like you're not going to get too far on your road trip. You want to start with a full tank. That's
Absolutely
what carnivore did for me. It filled up my tank.
Yes. Fill up your tank. You can't run on empty and going 90 miles an hour all the time, because it's just
Nope.
It's gonna die.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
I have a question from one of our viewers, if you're up for it.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, this is from Chrissy. She said, I seem to gain fat every time I try to eat high-fat carnivore. I ironically do best on around 60-40 or even 50-50 ratios. What are your thoughts?
So this is very common. I would want to know, there's a lot of different reasons this could be. When people say high-fat carnivore, first of all, what does that mean? And you specified, so I appreciate that because it's enough fat. And if you're running around 60-40 or 50-50, that probably tells me you're not fat adapted and you're eating a very high amount of protein. And oftentimes when people think I'm going to eat high fat, they keep the protein really high and then, or they're what they were already eating, and they just add fat on top of it. And now it's just extra calorie, it's extra food and extra energy than your body needs. So there's a proper amount. We're told we need more protein. And compared to a standard American diet, you do need more protein. Americans are not getting enough protein. Compared to on a carnivore diet, most everybody's getting enough protein because that is all you're eating. So that's where I would want to know what your goals are, because you don't often need 1 gram per body weight. That is usually too high for most women, especially even if you're strength training. But it's going to depend. If you're new to carnivore, if you've been doing it for a long time, how much weight you have to lose, if you are leptin resistant or you are not fat adaptive, what your blood sugar is doing. So I have a lot more questions, and it's not as just simple as eat at this macro ratio, because you can test your body looking at what is my glucose, what are my ketones, what is your insulin, because that is an issue too, that you can actually have normal glucose, but if you're not able to lose the body fat, you can have high insulin, and that also will keep you hungry. And that's so there's a lot to unpack there, but most carnivores will find their balance, and ideally it should be enough fat. Otherwise, we're not going to be giving our body what it needs for all of our hormones and other things, and there are negative effects down the road if you're not having enough fat. And that means you're using glucose as energy, because protein alone is not a great fuel source. We need fat for carbs, and we're not having carbs, so we should have enough fat. And that's where I still see some carnivores will come to me with pre-diabetic glucose numbers, and that is usually because they are just eating massive amounts of protein and are not and are insulin resistant. So yeah.
Yeah, here's another little comment from her. She said, however, when I tried lower protein instead, I was always hungry and felt weak. A1C is 0.8. A1C is great.
Yep. So A1C is good. Fasting insulin, you would want to know. You can check your leptin. And depending on your lower protein, but how much fat did you have? Every day, want to go low protein either. So there are some out there that are having 50 grams of protein, and now your belly is just not even full, because you kind of need that balance, right? You need the volume of some protein with the fat for the fuel, and it can take some time. And if you have fat to lose, that's one thing. And if you don't, so maybe you were just adding too much fat. Like, not everybody needs a ton of it. Like, a lot of times, if you're eating fatty cuts of meat, that's the other thing. You're using this macro calculator, and you're saying, yeah, I ate a ribeye. I put 6 ounces of ribeye in my carb management. Well, was that ribeye really fatty and marbled and from wherever it was and just tons of fat, or was it a grass-fed ribeye from someone local that has no fat on it? Those are totally different natural amounts. So if you ate something like that, maybe you actually were getting enough fat, and you were trying to add fat on top of it. Oh, it's too much. So this is where it is hard to just give one answer, because there are, I don't want to say correct macro amounts. If you're having issues, yes, we reel it in. We get everything working optimally. We start at I have people start at certain macro amounts, and then we get body feedback,
and then we make changes and we see what's the boost, what's the sleep, what's the digestion, and what is and isn't working before we start tinkering with other things. Because ideally, you want to eat when you're what you want, when you're hungry, how much you want, to satiety, so that your body trusts you. And that's not going to come from a macro ratio calculator.
Okay, this actually leads me to my next question. How important is it to track macros, to count macros? How important is the ratio? And how important is it to know what your TDEE is?
I've never had anybody do a TDEE ever. So that's part one. But if you are new, sometimes it can be helpful to know how much you are eating, because the number one problem I have with clients is under eating, because it is very satiating to eat carnivore. It is eating a lot of protein. And if you're not adding fat, then you can be under eating long term, and you will lose weight. Like, people feel great, they're losing weight, they're not hungry, and then they're a couple months down the road might be having issues. So it can be helpful to get a guide of how much you're eating if you're new, to make sure you're having enough, or just what that even is. Because if you came from like just eating, maybe you had like a muffin for breakfast and then a chicken salad for lunch and some chicken with dinner, you may have only had 40 grams of protein in your entire life, and now maybe you're getting 60. So it's more, and you are more full, but it's probably still not enough for your body. So I like to give people starting points of macros. It depends on where you're at, and if you were under eating before already, which most women are because they've been dieting their entire life and restricting calories and counting them, that you may need to be like, all right, we need to make sure you're eating enough right now and refuel the body. And then now your body's telling you, whoa, okay, I don't want any more of that fat. But most of my clients are like, please do not take that fat away, because once they actually feel the nourishment of how it feels to be full from fat, it is different than just a belly stretch. It is nourishing your body, it is nourishing your cells, and it is giving you so much more. Sorry, my dog is barking. People walking by, but it's giving so much
Okay.
more than what you're used to having. So, yeah. It's tough. I think long term, no, people don't need to track macros. Absolutely not. But when you're having problems, when you're starting out, when you're not losing weight, all of these things, I say, let's kind of get a guide of where we're at, or I give people kind of some things to start out with, because when they work with me, I have people fill out what I call a food and mood journal. So it is 3 to 5 days of every single thing they ate, when they ate it, when they woke up, what their bowel movements looked like. We talk a lot of, I get very detailed with people.
Very detailed.
Yeah, what supplements you take, what you drank, any electrolytes, what your workouts were like. So I want like as much information into your body and life as I can get, because I want to look for those patterns and find things that maybe you're not noticing. So, and then we go from where are you at to what do you need?
Yeah, this is a really important topic, and it leads me to my next question. You mentioned at the beginning of our time together that you also, you spell carnivore with a K because you have a focus on ketones. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of ketones and how to test for them, whether you use the breath ketone meters, whether you use the blood ketone meter? What is the difference?
Yeah, so I found that so many carnivores were still just having issues, and they may have lost some weight and then it stopped, or they still had a lot of weight to lose and only lost like a pound when they started. And when you are already insulin resistant, a lot of protein is actually going to keep it that way. So this is why I started this, that ketosis by itself, when you are in ketosis, your body makes 400% more energy. So you're going to actually be more efficient. It fuels your body. It improves your mitochondria. So every cell is giving you more energy
than what you would be getting if you were just using glucose or using that as fuel. And it's very healing. So those that need more, they have thyroid issues, they have gut issues, or even just, I think it's very important for even carnivores who are feeling fine to get into ketosis, whether it's through fasting appropriately, some intermittent or a little extended, depending on how we do that safely. But I think it's very important to repair and get autophagy, which is the body's recycling. And you recycle your old hormones and proteins, and it's like cleaning, house cleaning and doing the dishes. If you need to take the trash out, you need to repair. So I do think it's very important, not necessarily every day for everyone, but I know I feel my best when I am in ketosis overnight, and I wake up and I am in ketosis. I feel fueled, and you are still getting glucose from meat, so you're getting enough when you, and I go over different levels and things that we can do based on each different people. So the way I prefer to test it, because it is a little bit more reliable, is a glucose monitor that I just have like a Keto Mojo, and there's 2 separate strips. One's for ketones, one's for blood sugar. You prick your finger, you do a test, and you know where your fasting blood sugar is, and then, or if you're eating later, your after a meal, a postprandial they call it, and if you're in ketosis or not, because it's a lot of times people will be on the edge of this ketosis where they're not fat adapted and they're stuck on ketosis, and their body is not able to get there. And if we can get you fat adapted first, then your body is going to choose ketosis over burning glucose. It's going to be hard to achieve.
Hang on. Sorry, we have some serious microphone interference here. Let me see if I can get it. Can you see something?
Yeah.
Okay, it's really choppy. Huh. Okay. Let's try that. Sorry to interrupt you. Try again. Oh, now you're gone completely. Let's see. Is it unplugged? Sorry, guys, technical difficulty. It might have switched settings on you or something on your microphone. No, ma'am. Oh, I'm hearing something. Okay, no. I heard you pick up the microphone. Let's see here. See if it comes back on. No, dang it. Where did you go? Here, let me put you out and then see if bringing you back in adds it back. There we go. Give it a try. No. So yeah, it says your mic is on, but oh no. Oh no, friends. Okay, that's muted. You're unmuted. I don't hear you. Down in the middle, there should be that little gear. If you click on settings and then click on audio, there should be an option there to connect to that mic. Oh no. Hi, Charmaine. We're having a technical difficulty. Hopefully we'll get Sarah down back shortly.
All right, did that work? I reset.
Oh, yay! You're back. Yay.
That was so weird. Okay. It was. I did the same thing twice. I don't know what happened there. That's strange.
And your sound is perfect. You're crystal clear.
I don't know what happened, if it was just a Wi-Fi, but yeah. The microphone was like, I'm on, I'm not on mute. I don't know what happened. Oh, I
Oh
gotta love
gosh.
technology. Well, yeah.
You're back now, and I'm so sorry you got
Yay.
interrupted there.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I don't even remember so what did you hear?
We were talking about the difference between using blood ketones versus breath ketones, and I actually had a question for you about it because I've heard that blood ketones are different than breath ketones. Breath ketones shows you how much fat you are burning, and blood ketones shows you how much fat you have to burn. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard that. I prefer the blood because it is usually more reliable. And it's just easier. It's usually cheaper. Some of those breath ones, I mean, the breath ones are going to be a bigger investment long term. Or the breath one is a big investment up front, and then you're not buying strips. But I'm not on board, I guess, yet. Maybe they have a place. I'm sure they do, but it was like maybe $300. I'm like, I'm good with that. Where I got the Keto Mojo and you get the strips. And it is because I want to know both. I want to know my glucose and my ketones. It's just something it's very reliable. It's a lot less expensive. Some other people have other brands. And it's, I guess, it's a little bit more reliable. I don't ever really recommend like the urination ones or anything, but if somebody had one of those, I think it's probably fine. It's just, you may not even really need to, check ketones and glucose forever. Like you really don't. Like once we kind of get you where you need to be, you understand it, then it's only for a period of time. And then if you, want to here and there, you can do that. So, I just guess I don't want to do as much of an investment for people to try to save them money.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've heard Anthony Chapey say that carnivore is a fasting mimicking diet. It will help you to get into ketosis. And I think he's been a carnivore for almost a decade or over a decade now. And he said when he tested his blood ketones, it was like 0.2. Does that number really matter? Like, does that mean that he's fat adapted? I mean, obviously the guy literally just eats basically lion. What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, that's not a bad thing. Like it depends what he tested, first of all. Like if he's tested fasted and he's at 0.2, like that's fine. And people can be, I get what he says like about a fasting mimicking diet because your insulin is lower than it would be on anything else, especially if you're only eating twice a day. Like intermittent fasting is really helpful in keeping insulin low and glucose low, that you're eating, that protein. And then, but there are carnivores out there that snack all day because they're like, oh, it's just a carnivore food. So now I'm going to have cheese and now I'm going to have pork rinds, and those types of things are easy to overeat. So it's not bad. If he were having health issues, that he was having inflammation, there were other things going on, then I would say, I think that you may need to do maybe a 24-hour fast. And then he would be in deep ketosis and just skipping one meal. So it depends on the person. He probably is fat adapted because he does eat, very high fat. And I know he's a big fan of like needing enough fat, like 70 to 80% fat, which is like optimal. I really think 75 to 80% fat is where I think most people thrive and need. So I would say like it's just going to be what his body, what level of inflammation he has. But then you have long-term carnivores like Dr. Sean Baker recently has talked about some inflammation and neuroinflammation he's been having, that he is trying some higher fat versions and ketosis to help with that. So I think that that's something that could be, what some carnivores may need is just getting into ketosis here and there to make sure they're cleaning, repairing, doing what they need to do, and having enough fat as fuel, which I know he eats enough fat, but just, depending on the person and any symptoms they might be experiencing.
Okay. I have another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's the benefit of eating the fat on the meat versus the fat off of the meat, or is there a difference? Dr. Elizabeth Bright, I know she regrets using this terminology. It was just to give people an idea of what a ratio would look like of 80-20 fat to protein. So she said a stick of butter, which is I think 4 ounces, half a cup, and then a pound of meat. That was kind of like her ratio, just to give people a visual. And she said it's been following her around like
I know.
bad, you know.
I know.
What are your thoughts?
So fat, no matter what, like if you're at a 75 to 80% fat ratio, like whether it's fat from the meat or fat, from butter, whatever you prefer, because some people want to eat like a leaner cut of meat. Maybe they want some seafood. They're having shrimp, and that's really lean. So you're going to have a ton of butter on that, or you're going to be dipping it or eating it or whatever you want to do. And others really want like very fatty meat and might not add that. So I think any animal fat is amazing. I love adding fat. I usually, whether I have, like if I have a ribeye, usually it's pretty fatty that I don't need to add much fat. But if I have a very lean ribeye, what was grass fed, I need to add a lot of butter. I'll make what I call my little carnivore bars. Like I love the carnivore bars. It's just, maybe a little pricey sometimes. So I just take like ground beef and I pour a ton of tallow on them, and then I put them in the fridge to get them hard, and I cut them, and those to me are delicious. So they have a lot of fat added to that meat. So whatever your body's craving, and there's days where you need maybe less and maybe more. Like if I was out in the full sun, I usually am like dying for more fat after making a lot of vitamin D, and I'm craving that. So I give it to my body. And other days I'm like, oh, I really want more protein. So things change day to day, depending on your activity level, your time of the month for women, for your situation. So, but always eat enough fat and don't deprive your body of it, whether it's from a stick of butter or the animal itself.
Or a pound of butter.
Or a pound. Yeah. I'm proud. I mean, I might eat about a stick a day, maybe some days. Yeah. Depends.
I think for me, well, obviously,
what about you?
Our metabolic profiles are very different. I'm breastfeeding still, plus I'm working out.
Yes.
And so for me, I would say, depending on the day, I'm anywhere from 2 to 4 sticks of butter.
Nice. Yeah.
Like, and I just, you kind of touched on it without touching on it, intuitively eat. Like if fat sounds good to me, I'm eating the fat. If meat sounds good to me, I'm eating the meat. If they sound good together, I'm eating them together. Like I love the homemade bars that you're talking about.
Yes.
I love making those. Like I don't even dry out the beef. I just
me neither.
Pan fried. I put it in the muffin papers. I pour it all over top, sprinkle some salt, stick it in the fridge, and I eat those little pemmican muffins all day. I'm like, they are so good to me.
So good. I have to make them today. Yeah.
Ooh.
I have to make some today. Yeah, they're so good. I finished the pan last night or yesterday afternoon because I was extra hungry. And I did some hard workouts that I was like, I need more fuel. And so I'm listening to your body once you get your body talking. So the people that are ravenous and there's no end in sight and they're extremely overweight and are still having these things, that is different. You can't trust your body yet, or your body's been having some issues. So there's so many other levers to pull, like the circadian rhythm and maybe the right intermittent fasting and other pieces to get everything signaling correctly so that you can eat intuitively, because those that get stuck and just add all this weight when they start carnivore are often coming from a signaling problem, and it's tough because then they are discouraged and think it's not a sustainable way to eat, and they can't trust their body, and then they go to calories and they do less, and then that's a cycle that we don't want to get on either, because it's lowering your calories has side effects as well.
Yes, it does. And I relate to what you just said so deeply, because when I came to carnivore, I gained 14 pounds and I was losing it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't gain any more weight. And it's not like it was bad weight, it's I've heard for a lot of people, they gain lean muscle mass, they gain bone density, lean tissue, and that if you've eaten a low fat diet, or if you've chronically restricted your eating for years, your liver can double in size again, because I guess it shrinks when it's not required to work super hard. I don't know if you've heard that,
Yeah.
but I would love for you to
Yeah.
talk about that because it is so fascinating to me.
Yeah, so it is really interesting. There was a study done by Ansel Keys, who many of you may know was the guy that demonized saturated fat inappropriately. It was supposed to do 21 countries studying, and he only chose the 7 that fit his narrative that saturated fat causes heart disease and why we flipped to using all these nasty canola oils. But that one for another day. The other study was the Minnesota starvation experiment, and in that trial, he reduced. People were eating at a very healthy, men were eating at a healthy amount. I think it was like 3,200 calories. They restricted it then to about 1,700 calories, between I think 16 to 1,800 calories. And they had lost weight, but they also lost a lot of muscle. They lost fat as well. But the side effects were many, where one of them was even reduced organ size. Like the liver shrank by like 50%. So you're not going to be detoxing. You're not going to be getting, the function that your body needs. It lowers your metabolism because you're giving your body less. So now I always tell people, like, it's less in, less out when it comes to calories. If you're giving your body less, then there's going to be less going on because you can't do the same processes long-term expecting the same outcomes. And it can be really, really bad, among other things. So your thyroid's going to tank. They were really cold. They were fatigued. They, all these things that people come up with and then have digestive issues. So there's so many side effects to that. And then when they even were refed, they gained it was 140% body fat back by the time that they got to their weight that they started at. So the body remembers that you starved it, and it is going to gain more fat when you start feeding it. So that is another consequence to eating less on purpose and restricting. So many people that come from that, when you start feeding your body, it's going to hang on to everything because it can be doing all this repair, but it's also going to be like, there's famine coming again, because they're going to start trying to look good for summer, and they're going to just feed us less. So, we don't want that. And you need to fuel. I was on that. I yo-yoed most, and then you're losing muscle. So like every time you do that, you would restrict, you lose some weight, you probably lost muscle and fat. And now you gain more fat back and you had the same amount of muscle. So every time you're doing that, you're actually raising your body fat compared to your muscle, and you are under muscled. You're now more metabolically damaged. And yeah, it's a cycle that most people have been on at some point, and just, you need to get off and nourish your body. There are other levers to pull if you're not losing body fat, if you're, not seeing results. And that's what I do every day, is we get, where you're at that moment, and say, okay, what other things do we need to do? Because the body is capable of healing and figuring it out. And there are other ways to challenge yourself, but not restrict yourself.
Do you think this applies to those who have had or have, gastric sleeves, or have had the gastric bypass surgery?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people, and I know some people personally have had the sleeve or the bypass surgery, and they lose all the weight, and then they gain it back plus an additional 40%. Do you think that also applies to those people, or people who go and have the sleeve removed? Do you think that applies to them as well?
I think that's traumatic for the body, first of all, to lose that much, because you are just restricting yourself. You can only eat so much in a sitting. And if they, first of all, didn't change their eating habits when they got that surgery, and they were still eating the stuff, just less of it, like, you're really starving your body. I think the body learns how to bypass that, honestly, like, because the stomach can come back. It can get bigger again. It can change. People that do have it removed, I think that is good. I'm not medical advice here or anything like that, but I'm all about a more natural, holistic way, and giving the body what it needs to thrive. And I think that, even that, you will be able to lose the weight that you need to. It's going to take some more time, and it's going to take a little bit more discipline. And there's other levers to do, like after you can re-nourish yourself, then, you know, some fasting can be helpful here and there once you know that you're, you know, everything else has been, you're not depleted anymore, because we just don't want people to become nutrient depleted and then have other problems as well. But yeah,
This is, oh yeah, this is, and it's just so interesting to me when you were talking about the study about, and I've read that study as well, where the people lost, they lost weight, they lost the muscle mass, they lost the fat, and then they gained back fat. They didn't gain back muscle, they gained back fat. And it's like the body's like, oh, we're not doing this again. If we're going to be going into a famine, I'm going to be prepared for it. You know, Dr. Robert Schultz talks about this, and he's like, if you're a person who is thin, you're the first one in the dirt if there's a famine. Just like,
absolutely.
It's a little harsh, but it's true. Like,
body fat is like the diamond of the body. You would not survive winter if you didn't have enough body fat, because there were times that there was no food and you are able to survive off of that. It was never a need to be less, you know, to have to lose weight. This is a newer problem. Like, you don't see animals in nature just randomly be overweight. Like, there's no, you know, overweight, elephants are different, but like giraffes at the zoo, there's not like a fat giraffe. It's like they all look like they're supposed to. They all are being fed appropriate diets, or they're really not in nature. They're more domesticated. But if, you know, you're not going to see a wolf out in the wild that is fat, because they know what they eat. They eat what they're supposed to eat. They eat till they're full. They eat when they find something. But we've made food so inconvenient and eat all day long, and have made new problems and eat all these poisons and keep the insulin very high, because we're just topping off the tank all day long. And that is a sign to store it. Like, hey, we got all this excess energy, we need to store it because that winter is coming, right? There's always that winter coming. But when winter never comes, then you're just storing fat forever. So that's a new problem. But we do want to have enough body fat, because it is the way that we survive. So that's how our bodies were built. Yeah.
I agree. Okay, I have one more question in the comments before we close our time. And it's not really a question, but I'm just going to show it on the screen here. So Dallas Scott III, he said, meal prep for the week is my biggest stumbling block. And he said it's figuring out how to cook the right amount of meat and then proper storage so it doesn't lose its taste and go bad if I happen to be away for a day unexpectedly. And he said, it is also tough because no one else in my family wants to be carnivore. What advice or words of wisdom would you have for Dallas?
So some things that are pretty easy, like I love, like, if soft boiled eggs are something you can always keep in the fridge, like for that. You can make a lot of them at once, and a couple days, like, they last. And with some butter. Cold burger patties, I think, or cold ground beef in the fridge. Like, you could batch cook that. You could make a bunch of little burger patties and even make a bunch at once. You could throw maybe half in the freezer, and then, you know, eat what you're going to eat for a couple days. And then, all right, tomorrow I'm going to take this other half out, or put them in a couple other little containers and have like 2 or 3 burger patties in the freezer to take out that are already cooked, if that's something. I love cold ground beef or cold burger patties. So I don't do a ton of meal prep. I usually eat, but when I used to be on the road, like, I would do that. And it would be a lot of hard boiled eggs and a lot of burgers. Honestly, there are other things you could do, you know, like snack wise, but that's still not as ideal. But yeah, just make a bunch of meat and keep it in the fridge. You don't have to make too much, because once you kind of get maybe more adapted to carnivore, like, you don't necessarily need to meal prep that much, that you can have some things in the freezer. Like we talked about, maybe the carnivore bars, or in the fridge, like some beef with the tallow for, like, I am hungry. And like Richelle is breastfeeding, that she's like, I'm hungry now. So you want that protein ready to go. But a lot of times when you become more carnivore and fat adapted, you're eating your one meal and you eat to satiety. So if you woke up and you ate your big meal and you're not hungry for another 6 or 7 hours, then you just make that other meal later. So it depends kind of where you're at. Because I really don't do much prep. Like I am lazier now, but I'm 6 years. I'll be going on like 7 in January that I kind of just know my body, but I prefer fresh, more freshly cooked. But if we're going somewhere, if I'm making my breakfast, I'll just make double and I'll make an extra burger. If I know we're going somewhere later, I'll just throw an extra couple patties on there, a couple more eggs, and throw it in a little container so I can just have that later. So I'm making 2 meals at once because then I don't have to meal prep and it's just the same. Yeah. I don't know. What about you? What other tips do you have?
I love this question. So my husband does not eat strict carnivore. He does more, I would say more ketovore. So
yeah,
I
my husband too.
Yeah, I batch cook. I will buy like the warehouse pack of chicken thighs. I will season them up. They're just the way he likes it. I will bake those. So there's like 5 meals, like 2 thighs per meal. That's 5 meals for him. I will do 4 pounds of burger patties at a time. And like, Sarah said, she freezes them. I never even thought to freeze them. We go through those so fast in my house. It's literally like she said, I'm hungry now. I need to eat now. So it's like burger patty, butter mayo, or some tallow, some salt, and down the hatch it goes, and I'm off and running. You can have those convenient snack foods, but I like the idea of keeping like, bacon cooked in the fridge, eggs boiled in the fridge, ground beef, burger patties, chicken. I make homemade chicken tenders and I make it, again, warehouse pack size at a time. So I can eat that for 4 or 5 days. And I also want to encourage you, because you said, it's really difficult when other people in your house aren't wanting to do carnivore. You're leading by example. When they see the changes happening in you and your mood and your body and your energy and your sleep and how you function, they're going to be encouraged by that. And I've noticed this, and this has just been something that I have noticed with working with clients as well, is as people make these changes, subconsciously, it's like almost like a programming that happens. So like a lot of, families with kids and stuff, their kids are like, oh, I don't want to eat carnivore, blah, blah, blah. They always end up picking the carnivore foods. They always do. It's like the mom will go and make, the sides and all that kind of stuff. And it's like they push all of that away. They just eat the meat and then they're eating the meat off of her plate. And she's like, hello.
So anytime those are in the fridge, same thing. Like, I was carnivore before my husband. And the one January, all of a sudden, he didn't even tell me. He just kind of started doing it. And I'm like, that's a little leaner. And I'm like, and then, you can just, and when I would make the dinner, and he's like, you could just leave those veggies out of that. And I was like, okay. So you just never know. Like some people might be ready, but he always ate a lot of meat. It was just like, I don't think I need those. And then, he'll have things off time to time, but I actually, if there's meat that is there, like people will be like, ooh, I'll take some of that for your family. And I know when I go to parties, my nickname is the charcuterie queen, because I bring the charcuterie because I know I can eat it. So I don't know what they're serving or, whatever it is. So I'm bringing the cheese, and I put all kinds of crazy things on there. I put hard-boiled eggs. I'll make some carnivore waffles. I'll do, cheese. I'll do bacon. Like you can put whatever you want on it. And like, I bring that and it gets devoured. Like everybody eats it. And I'll do like the crispy, maybe Parmesan crisps or something like that. It's like a crunchy cheese. You can make those in the oven or whatever it is. But then you're able to, people enjoy it. They love it. They're not missing the other things. They love, meat and cheese. So it is very easy to do that. And once you just offer it, it gets eaten. And it's delicious way of eating. So,
I'm all about the charcuterie, and I like the creativity that you put behind. There's a lot of thought that goes into that. You're like, the little waffles, the little whisks. Like that's genius. I'm just like, here's some meat and cheese. Like that's it.
Yeah. I started there. And then like the other time it was like a brunch. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do some breakfast stuff. I'll make some bacon. I threw some deli turkey on there. Like, I don't know. Cause I'm like, I don't know what they're making. If they make me 2 eggs, I'm going to be hungry. So what am I going to eat if they don't have anything there? I want this. So
Yes. I love that. Yes. Well, Sarah, I've really enjoyed this conversation and this time together with you. I would love for you to share, what is the number one thing people need to focus on in order to lose weight with carnivore? what would you say that is?
So the number one thing is eating enough consistently. You can't see results in a week. You're not going to see results right away, and you have to give it time. But it is, I think, eating enough. You may need to track to see what that is for you, just to even know, because if it's 1,000 calories, it's not enough. Most adults need at least 1,800 to 2,000 to 2,500. I mean, it's all over the place what you need, where you are in your journey, but you need to eat enough. And it's usually people are not eating enough fat. They eat the protein, they've got that down, but they're not getting that. And that's where your body may be just holding on to that because it's still undernourished and worried, and you're still restricting yourself. So you want to be able to trust your body again and listen to it. So give it what it needs.
I love that. And do you have any projects that you're working on right now that you'd like to share about?
So yeah, I have a group that I started because, I do work one-on-one with clients, and that can be really intensive and sometimes too much for people. So I have a group that is wrapping up now, but we're going to be starting up again in January. And it's 6 weeks that it's all things. And I go through every single thing because it's not just food. We talk about, the history of why our food is the way it is, and the reason that, the science is maybe not what it should be, and what you're told, is wrong by your doctors, to what to eat, to how much to eat, to when to eat it, to your digestion, your blood sugar, how to hydrate, how to work out. We review the best type of workouts, the worst type of workouts, sleep, stress, movement, nervous system, biohacks, red light therapy, sunshine, vitamin D, bone health. I mean, it's a whole body approach. So if you can get your body functioning on a cellular level optimally, then this is what I talk about when I talk carnivore with a K, because it's ketosis, it's carnivore, it's using everything in the toolbox to get you the functioning of your body and, be the Ferrari that it can be. So
I love that, being a Ferrari.
yeah.
Amazing. And Sarah, how can people find you? Where can they go to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm in the Buff Wellness. I'm most active on Instagram. I do have things on YouTube as well, but yeah, in the buffwellness.com has all my services, as well as ebooks. But yeah, follow me and sign up for my free fat loss tips while you're there, and then you get alerts to anything I have going on, as well with my email list. So yeah, please join.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you with my whole heart for coming on today, for answering questions, for letting me grill you.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was so nice to catch up with you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you. And you guys, I'm going to link all of Sarah's contact information down in the description box below. Please go and like and subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go and find her on Instagram at In The Buff Wellness. You do not want to miss out on the content that she is putting out. She puts out great content, and I love reading her emails. There's always a little gem in there. There's always a little gold nugget that I pull out of that, and I'm like, ooh, I need to apply that. Ooh, I bet you I know somebody who could benefit from that. So definitely go and give her a follow, you guys. And thank you all so much for tuning in, and I hope you all have a blessed rest of your day.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.